What if the biggest mysteries in the universe, things like dark matter, dark energy, even consciousness itself, what if they weren't all separate problems? What if they were just different symptoms of one single, massive, undiscovered truth? Well, today we're diving into a really radical theory that tries to connect all of it. So let's see if we can trace the lines it draws, from the scale of the entire cosmos right down into our own minds.
Let's start with a feeling that I bet a lot of us share. It was put into words decades ago by the cyberneticist Stafford Beer. It's this sense that everything, our societies, our systems, they're just running amok, constantly lurching from one crisis to the next without ever really finding any solid ground.
But here's the question. What if all this chaos doesn't mean the world itself is broken? What if it just means our understanding of it is broken, that we're seeing everything in disconnected fragments? This explainer is all about a theory that suggests everything is connected in a way we've just completely missed. Okay, so here's our roadmap. We're going to start with the problem, this universe of fragments. Then we'll dive into this wild idea of a superfluid reality. See how that connects to a so-called algorithm of control, and even cosmic consciousness. And then at the end, we'll ask the big question. Does this all add up to some kind of grand unification? So Stafford Beer argued that our main problem is really an intellectual one. He said we are trained to see just bits of systems. We put economics in this box, politics over here, physics way over there in its own little world. But by carving reality up like this, we completely fail to see the whole picture. And, well, the whole system starts to fail as a result. So if that's the problem, what's the solution? This is where things get really interesting. We're going to look at something called the primordial superfluid universe model of everything, or PSUMOT for short. It's a mouthful, I know, but the core idea is that underneath this fragmented reality we see, there is a single unifying physical substrate. The heart of this entire theory is this, the primordial superfluid substrate. The idea is that literally everything, space, time, matter, energy, the whole shebang is all just an expression of one single underlying quantum fluid. You can think of it like a cosmic ocean that everything we know just emerges from. Okay, so how does an idea like that actually help with anything? Well, let's take dark matter. The standard model of physics says we need to find some brand new exotic particle to explain it. But this theory says, nope, there is no new particle. Dark matter is just the gravitational pull of the superfluid itself. We're not looking for a fish in the ocean, we're realizing we're swimming in the ocean. And it proposes a similar kind of elegant fix for dark energy. Instead of some mysterious number called a cosmological constant, PSUMOT pictures something it calls cosmic pressure. It's like this natural outward push that comes from the universe's own creative potential. It's a dynamic, living process, not just a static number somebody plugged into an equation. To really get the next layer of this, let's borrow a fantastic analogy, one you might have heard before, from string theory. It suggests that deep down, fundamental particles aren't little dots, but they're more like vibrations, like musical notes on a tiny, tiny string. So here's the crucial question. If particles are the notes, what's the instrument they're being played on? Well, PSUMOT claims that the cosmic superfluid is that instrument. All the different particles we see, electrons, photons, all of them, they're just different stable wave patterns, different vibrations moving through this one universal medium. Okay, so buckle up because this is where the theory takes a huge leap. If this superfluid is really the foundation of everything, then its patterns shouldn't just show up in physics, right? The next claim is that these same fundamental dynamics scale all the way up, from biology to the very algorithms that run our social media feeds. Now, to make that jump, we have to grab a concept from biology. It's called R/K selection theory. Basically, it's a spectrum of survival strategies. When environments are unstable and chaotic, strategies that favor quantity and speed win out. Think insects. They're R strategists. But in stable environments, strategies that favor quality and long-term investment, like with humans, they win. We're K strategists. And you really want to see what happens when these strategies get messed with? Just look at the Universe 25 experiment. It's chilling. Scientists gave mice this perfect utopia. Endless food, no predators, everything. But as the population got more and more dense, their K-selected social structures just collapsed. They called it a behavioral sink. Even with everything they could possibly need, their society just died out. So why bring up a weird mouse experiment? Because the theory argues this is precisely what is happening to us right now. Our modern information environment, especially social media, is engineered for maximum instability and chaos. And in that chaos, our selected information, the fast, emotional, simple stuff, memes, it thrives. And it actively suppresses our K-selected thinking, the slow, complex, nuanced stuff. It's basically Universe 25, but for the human mind. All right, now for the final and honestly, maybe the most mind-bending piece of this whole puzzle, consciousness itself. How does our inner world, the world of our thoughts and feelings, connect to the outer world of physics? The famous psychologist Carl Jung asked this very question. He said, look, if our mind is totally separate from physical matter, then how on earth can a decision you make in your head cause your actual physical arm to move? There has to be some kind of bridge. And here it is. This is the theory's most provocative claim. Jung described a collective unconscious, an omnipresent, deep substrate of the psyche. P.S. Amo describes a universal, fundamental, physical substrate. So the theory asks, are these two different things? Or are they just two different ways of describing the exact same thing? The bridge for how this could possibly work comes from a field called psychocybernetics. The core idea is just wild. Your nervous system literally cannot tell the difference between an actual experience that happens to you and one that you just vividly imagine. That means our internal state, our consciousness, has a direct, measurable impact on our physical reality. To really wrap your head around this, let's use a classic analogy from Isaac Newton's experiments with light. A prism doesn't invent colors like red or blue. Those colors are already there, all unified inside the beam of white light. The prism just separates them out so we can see them. Well, P.S. Umont proposes that your consciousness is the prism. The cosmic superfluid is the white light, a field of pure infinite potential. The very act of you observing the world separates that potential out into the specific actual reality you experience. You don't create reality from nothing. You collapse potential into actuality. They call it observer shaping. So there you have it, a theory that claims to unite cosmology, sociology, and even consciousness. It is an incredibly ambitious, sweeping synthesis. But, and this is a really big but, before we get carried away, we have to put our scientific skeptic hats on and take a hard look. And the critiques here are pretty serious. For one, it just doesn't have the rigorous mathematical framework that the standard model does. It also leans on other really speculative ideas, and a lot of its core claims are just very, very difficult, maybe even impossible to actually test and falsify. So for now, it's really more of a philosophical framework than a proven scientific theory. Which brings us right back around to our final question. Is this theory a genuine glimpse of a unified reality? A map that finally connects all the broken fragments of our knowledge into one coherent whole? Or is it just an elegant, incredibly compelling, but ultimately illusory pattern? A grand illusion? For now, that answer remains unwritten.